Welcome back to the Distressed Princess. Today I'm doing another video request. This one came from Amber. She wanted to see more thrift flips with a vintage inspiration. So let's get on into it. And first I have to apologize. My voice may go in and out because I have a cold, but it's not going to affect the DIYs. I have this swan that I found at Goodwill, and she's pretty, but she was a Christmas swan. I wanted to remove that bow, and I didn't like the opalescent kind of whatever finish this is on her. If she would have been just plain flat white, I may have styled her just like she was, but I thought she needed a makeover. So once I got her all cleaned up, I gave her 2 good coats of this mineral color Waverly chalk paint that you can get at Walmart. So while she was drying, I decided to try to make homemade white wax, and the only reason I'm doing this is because I can never seem to find it in my store. I always find clear or antique, but I never find white. So I already had on hand this Annie Sloan wax, which is an expensive brand, but I only had it because I used it to refinish some kitchen cabinets. So if you're going to try to make your own, I would definitely recommend using the cheaper clear wax that you can find at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. So I used equal parts of the white wax, and now I'm putting some Snow White color Waverly chalk paint in, so it's a 1:1 ratio, and I only made up however much I thought I would need for this project. I mixed it for a long time until I felt like I was pretty sure that all that white paint was incorporated into the wax. Then I used a spare scrap piece of chipboard and I tested it out to see if it was going to give me the crafty white finish that I wanted. To be honest, I've never even worked with white wax before, so I have no idea what consistency it's supposed to be or how heavy it looks when it goes on, but I was pretty sure that when you apply it, you are supposed to wipe some back away. So when I did that, then I thought, hey, this is perfect. So if you ever find yourself without any white wax and you happen to have some clear and some white chalk paint, you can do this instead. I used a stencil brush to apply the homemade white wax to my swan, and I just worked in small areas and kind of just experimenting as I went along, because like I said, I've never even worked with white wax. And so I put some on, and then I took a paper towel and I wiped it back off until I was happy with the finish. So I'm thinking about all the figurines that you might find at the Goodwill or thrift store and that you could use this technique with to make them a little more modern and updated. I don't know why I decided to put wooden spoons and greenery in this swan planter. I don't know why. It's an odd combination, I guess, but for some reason I kind of liked it. Now I was looking for some sort of a bowl or a dish that I wanted to turn into a kind of nest for some birds, and so I found this fish scale dish, and I'm going to give it a painting technique to make it look more worn and vintage. So I'm working in layers, and the first layer of paint I'm going to paint all over the whole piece. Not the inside, just the outside, but I'm doing the Waverly chalk paint in truffle. I quick dried that all up with my hair dryer, and now I'm going to add on a layer of some almost black. This color is called charcoal, but it's almost black. And I'm not going to completely cover the whole piece with this. I'm just going to do it in spots, like larger areas, but not covering the whole thing. And then after I dried that all up, now the final layer will be the Snow White color Waverly chalk paint, which I'm going to put all over, but not trying to get in every nook and cranny, so that the brown layers and the black layers can show through in some places. And so this is what the dish looked like after I was finished with its layers of paint. Now for the birds, and these are some little fat chunky birds that I found at the Dollar General store, and I liked their little concrete looking bottoms, but I didn't like their gold tops, so they're gonna get a whole new makeover too. And they're gonna be painted in layers, but I'm gonna do wet distressing on them. So the first layer is just some black craft paint. After that's dry, the top layer is this crystal color chalk paint, which is a very faint color of blue, like barely detectable. I didn't want to make the top layer to be white because that's the same color as their little nest that they're going to be sitting on, so they're going to be little bluebirds. After the blue chalk paint has dried, now I take a wet paper towel and I'm just going to rub that over the spots where I want it to look distressed. And if you make what you feel is a mistake and you've wiped off too much, just go back and repaint that area with your top coat of paint and let it dry. I really love this method of distressing. It really looks authentic and worn. Look at these little cutie bluebirds. Now let's build their nest. So they're going to be sitting on top, not down inside. So I need to fill the inside, and I'm just using some plastic bags. Then to make it more sturdy on the top so that the birds will have a place to sit, I'm using some Dollar Tree floral foam, and I'm not hot gluing anything down, so it's not permanent. This can all be removed if you want to repurpose later. For the nest, I'm using this garden moss that I found at Goodwill, but you absolutely can find this at the Dollar Tree. Or if you have any twigs to build a nest with, that would be really cute too. So I am hot gluing this moss to the floral foam. Once that's done, now I'm going to add some greenery. And I love this greenery. This came from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to cut off sprigs of it and arrange it around the outside in a nest-like circle, and I'll hot glue that down to the moss. Then the last step is to hot glue the birds down in place. The next DIY is not using a thrifted item, but instead these pots from the Dollar Tree. You get 4 of them for $1.25. And even though they're not a thrifted item, they are going to look vintage when we're done with them and go along with our vintage thrifted DIYs. And this one is so super simple, guys. Just grab some white chalk paint and just roughly paint that on. It's not going to stick in all the places, and honestly you don't want it to, because the color that these pots are to start with is going to show through, and it's gonna look vintage and cute even with just one little layer of chalk paint. And on this one, you want to paint the insides too. Next step is to add some dirtiness to them because they want to look like they've been used and they've been out in the weather. So I'm using some Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle, and it's going to be very watered down. I'm first going to dip my brush into water and then into just the lid of the Truffle chalk paint, and I'm going to do a very watery mixture of that paint and then put it onto the pots and dab it off with a paper towel. And I love the effect that this gives. After it's all dried up, they definitely look like old weathered pots. Now I'm going to fix up some eggs to put inside one of the little pots. And this speckled egg garland came from the Dollar Tree. I liked it because they were the smaller size eggs and they already have speckles. The only trouble is they're too brightly colored to go with our vintage decorations, so we're going to remedy that by giving them a whitewash. I removed a couple of the blue eggs and a couple of the white eggs, and to give them the whitewash, I dipped my brush into some water and then into my white chalk paint and just brushed it right on the eggs. And that makes a huge difference. They're so much cuter with their colors a little muted and goes so much better with these pots. So now I'm going to build a little nest inside of the pot, and the only thing that I'm going to use is some moss. So I hot glue the moss inside just one little edge of the pot, and then I hot glue the eggs in place in the nest. So for a couple of bucks, boy, you could make a lot of these and put them all over. The next vintage spring DIY is using this vintage picture, and I'm not really interested in the picture inside, but I am interested in the frame. So the first thing that I'm going to do is tear off the backing so that I can remove the picture. And what I found out was the picture was printed directly on this cardboard piece, so it wasn't two separate things. So I'm just going to put my design right over the picture that was on this piece. And this is a placemat that I got at Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago in the spring section when it was all on clearance. So if you don't have anything like this, you could use a piece of lace or a crochet doily. So just pick up any picture frame that you like and lay this over the backing. Then when you have it positioned the way that you want it on your backing, hot glue it down in place, and I did just around the edges. Then I flipped it over and cut off the excess with my roller cutter. In the center, I'm going to put this bunny rabbit from the Dollar Tree. So I will need to disassemble this sign, and it really is just pull it off of the staples. And I needed to do a little fixing on the bunny's bow. It was kind of wonky, so I hot glued that little piece down, and I loved him just like he was. I thought maybe I might tear the details off of the bunny and decoupage some scrapbook paper on him, but I decided not to do that because I already had sort of a print on the placemat, and so I thought the solid color bunny would look better. So then I reassembled him back into the frame, and that was it. I loved the color of this vase that I found at Goodwill, but I wanted it to be not so glazy and shiny, so I thought maybe I could try my homemade white wax on it and see what it does. And so I just applied it onto the vase just like I did with the swan in the first DIY, and it really made this vase match everything else that I had made, so it made a cute grouping. And I wanted to show you this flower branch that I found at the Dollar Tree, and they only had one of them, and I think it's the perfect thing to put in a little vase like this. I wish I could have found a couple more, at least one more, to fill this vase. But instead I put it with some greenery that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I really like it too. Now let's take a look back at all our vintage spring DIYs today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you want to see more DIY fun, check out this video. It is my most popular spring DIY video. And I'll see you next time. Bye.